This one is a reworking of the all small streetcar systems one. And of course, I was thinking about what do I want to get up on YouTube, and I wanted to have something about all the small cities in Minnesota. So first you start with Anoka, and we have a picture. This is it, the Anoka Street Railway. It's not even a very good picture, but they had in the 1890s for a while, or the 1880s, they had this little street railway that was horse-drawn. It never electrified, and then it went away.
They even pose to the horses, you notice.
Yeah, the horses are they horses or are they mules?
Those are mules.
Yeah, okay.
But they're facing the camera.
They are. So Stillwater Bayport, of course, you got the Stillwater Street Railway, and this is the corner of 3rd and Chestnut. This was where the lines came up from downtown and diverged. The one on the right went to the North Hill, and the one on the left went to the South Hill. And this, of course, was the first permanent electric railroad in Minnesota, even though permanent in their case meant they ran for about 5 years and then they quit. And photos of it are very rare. This one up on the hill somewhere. And then, of course, they quit in about 1896 or so. In 1899, Twin City Lines built out there. And one of the franchise requirements for Twin City Lines to run in Stillwater was that they recreate the Stillwater Street Railway, essentially, and even more. And so this is down on the corner of Main and Chestnut. And these are both local cars. You can see running out there. Here's that same corner after they equipped it with, you can see this one says Wilkins Street. This is the one headed up to the North Hill. And they equipped it with the Class C cars, which were the shorter Twin City built cars. And then, of course, in 1925, they built the 4 lightweights for Stillwater. This is the same corner, just from a different angle. You can see the Stillwater lift bridge over here.
I bought an ice cream cone from that building on the corner on Friday. Still there.
Yeah, there's a good little ice cream place there. Plus, they've kind of shut the street off. It's pedestrian only now.
Yep.
And then here you are at the end of the Owen Street line, next to the Owen Street car barn and the substation that's still around. So this was the car that went around the South Hill. And then it ran down to Bayport, stopped at the prison on the way. And so this is one of the earlier cars. It's come down from Stillwater, and this is the Y at 3rd Street in Bayport. And here is pretty close to the same, I think this is a block or 2 away in Bayport with one of the lightweights. So then Winona. And of course, Winona did start with horse cars. And here is, if not number 10, no, actually, I think that says number 15 on it, but it's almost identical to number 10. And this was down on 3rd Street where they had a little passing track here with spring switches. And this, by the way, the track going off to the left is the non-revenue track headed for the car barn, which was a couple of blocks away. And the lake line that went across Lake Winona and ended rather abruptly here, but it served a big park and a cemetery. Here's number 11, sister to number 10. And number 10 itself. And here's that colorized one we did in anticipation of number 10 being completed. And I had published in the last Twin City Lines a group photo of these guys in proper uniforms. This apparently was before, and they had these pinstriped overalls with bow ties, but overalls, well, kind of a different look. So then Mississippi Valley Public Service that ran Winona also ran La Crosse. And so I've decided that La Crosse is within our purview because it was only across the river from Minnesota, and you had that common ownership with Winona. There was also some shared equipment between the two systems. So here you have some early stuff. And they're at the ball game. These are extras for the ball game. And a couple of these single truckers went over to Winona for use. And so they had abandoned all their lines going into World War II, with the exception of what they called the North Side line, kind of a long line, several miles up into the north side. And the Office of War Transportation had a lot to say about what happened with transportation. And what they said was, everybody stop abandoning your streetcar lines, because we're rationing gasoline, and we're rationing tires. And because of that, we need to move as many people not on gasoline and tires as possible. And so they mandated that this streetcar line would keep running through the war, and it did. And then it finally quit in 1945. So here it is making the loop in downtown. And this is their car barn on the north edge of downtown. These, by the way, were what they called maximum traction. You see how this axle is higher and this axle is lower? The low axle is unpowered. This thing only has 2 motors. And as a result, it was probably kind of sluggish. Here it is in downtown by the Chicago Northwestern Depot. And this photo came out of the book Badger Traction that the Central Electric Railfans Association published. And this is the only color photo I've seen of La Crosse, and by definition, the only color photo I've seen of the color scheme that we painted Winona 10. Mankato. Here we are down at the intersection of Front, and I forget what the street is to go up the hill. But they had 2 lines. They had the main line and the hill line, and this is where they're meeting down there.
Rose was living in that building on the right-hand side when I met her. It was a commercial college at that time.
Huh, okay. And here's that same intersection looking 90 degrees. So there you got the hill car and the main car. And this thing went about 2/3 of the way up that hill. As a matter of fact, here it goes. It went up to, I want to say, here, and turned to go across the hillside.
So that would have been up to then what became MSU, Mankato State, but it
That's right. It went right past the old Mankato State campus.
And that sort of right in the upper center, that's the campus, and that building got converted into senior residences. And now
Okay.
MSU is all the way up on the hilltop.
Right, and then it went to the right here. Whoops, and here it is up on the hill. And here's a photo on the main line. I don't know exactly which end. I don't know the location, but I just got this one from the Blue Earth County Historical Society. So nobody had seen this one before. St. Cloud, Waite Park, Sauk Rapids. Here, once again, is one of the sisters of car 78, the cane that was purchased from Duluth. And this would be their junction in downtown for their line to the south side and their line to from Waite Park to Sauk Rapids. And this is on the Sauk Rapids line. The thing has just come across the bridge and now turning north to go up to Sauk Rapids. Here it is on the bridge over the Mississippi. And in downtown. And this is out on the line to Waite Park, which went through some open country. Brainerd. This, I showed you this one before, but this is the entire fleet of 4 streetcars and the entire group of employees, and the powerhouse and the car barn. The entire system has been captured in one picture. 1893. And this one also lasted just a few years. They had a horse car line that ran for a couple of years, and then this ran for about 4 years or so. The Brainerd just wasn't big enough. And it went across this trestle over a big ravine, and a storm came along and blew down the trestle, and that put them out of business. Here you are. And you haven't seen this one before. This is from the County Historical Society, and I just got it. Wahpeton and Breckenridge. And of course, along the Dakota border, there were 3 interstate streetcar systems. It's kind of hard to call this a system because it was 1 mile long. And it went in a straight line, but it had to report to the Interstate Commerce Commission because it crossed the state line. So here it is on the Breckenridge side. I like the dog. Also on Breckenridge. What's interesting is the Hotel Wilkin. It's Wilkin County across the river in South Dakota. Here's the bridge over the river. And here we are, I think, at the end of the line in Wahpeton. And this is it. That's the entire fleet.
Got more
Fargo,
cars
we're
than
headed.
they do.
Yeah, what?
We've got more cars than they do.
That's true. We got more track than they do. Broadway and Fargo, going by the Fargo Theater, which I understand is still there. And this is the south end of the street. Whoops. And at this corner up here of Broadway and Northern Pacific Avenue was the big transfer point, and everything came in here every 15 minutes and held for a few minutes, and everybody transferred. So there was a line going in all 4 directions from this. The one on the right went to Moorhead. This was a loop to the south, and there was a clockwise car on the loop and a counterclockwise car. And so one of these is the clockwise and one is the counterclockwise. And then there were 2 lines up north. Here's the same location, just a little further south, crossing the Northern Pacific tracks. And this is the south side loop starting. So you can see one of these is clockwise, one is counterclockwise around the loop. And then this is looking west from the intersection. And here's the bridge over to Moorhead, across the Red River. One of the original cars going on to, I think it's called Center Street in Moorhead. Here's one of the Bierneys. There's a big parade going on. And of course, this is the Moorhead Normal School, what became Moorhead State University. And originally the cars ran right smack up to the buildings, and later they cut it back to the edge of the campus. And then you had the 3-mile line to Dilworth, which ran across open country. Grand Forks, East Grand Forks. And one of these is identical, one of these Grand Forks cars, and it wasn't this one, but one identical to it, wound up being sold to Bismarck, North Dakota for their little line, and then was retired and became some kind of a building. And it has been restored with a gasoline engine under the floor, and it runs occasionally on this Fort Lincoln trolley across the river in Mandan. Here's their car barn. And right in the middle of downtown. And up on the north side, I believe. International Falls, Ranier. And I recently contacted the Historical Society up in Koochiching County. And they had the 2 pictures we have. This is one of them. But they had some additional information we didn't have, and they had this picture. Now, there's no electricity. This is a gasoline-powered car. It's either gasoline or battery. I don't know which. I think it's gas. I think this is a gas car. And look at these guys. I'm not sure if that's legal or not, and if the car is moving. But this thing was like 6 miles long. It took a very circuitous route from International Falls to Ranier. And it only ran for a few years. Actually, I think it ran for like 2 years, about 1915. And then Hibbing, this was the streetcar that ran between North Hibbing and South Hibbing when they were moving the entire town. And so it qualifies as a local streetcar operation. There's part of the town being moved. And they bought a couple of these used streetcars, I think from Philadelphia. And then this is the one where they've almost finished cleaning out North Hibbing. And this is Dick Stoner's father, the motorman. And then, of course, a couple of fakes. You've seen these before, Wilmer.
Why did they clear out North Hibbing?
Because there was iron ore under it.
Ah,
And so they wound up mining this whole area. This became part of the big Horace Mahoning pit.
uh-huh.
But yeah, very seldom you pick up a town and move it. And here's the Milwaukee Electric running through Madison. And the highly disproportional streetcar in Dawson. What do you suppose the gauge is there, Jim? Is it about 8-foot gauge?
It looks more like
At
12.
least, at least.
So anyway, that's this one.